The scream tore through the frozen alley like glass, shattering against stone. "Please stop! I can't take it anymore!" 6-year-old Lily Marin, frail and trembling, pressed her thin frame against the wall of a crumbling building. Her tangled brown hair, matted with snow, clung to her damp cheeks. The tattered red sweater she wore did little to fight the brutal wind that cut into her bones. Her bare hands shook as she traced the outline of a cracked locket she had found days before, a keepsake that wasn't even hers, but gave her comfort, as if it once belonged to someone who had known love. The snow fell harder, muffling the world, but above the storm, heavy footsteps crunched closer. The two men who had chased her were shadows moving between broken street lamps, their harsh voices slicing through the cold. "She can't have gone far," one of them hissed. "She's too weak to run. We'll find her." Before we begin, let me know where you are watching from. Leave your country name in the comments below. And if you love stories about courage, loyalty, and community, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next stories. Lily bit her lips so hard it bled. She wanted to vanish into the snow, but the alley gave no escape. Her heart pounded until she thought it might burst. Her breath rose in fast clouds, the cold biting deep into her lungs. She whispered to herself, not words, just a broken prayer, her fingers still brushing the locket's cold metal surface. And then, before the men could close in, another sound broke the night, a low, commanding bark, sharp, protective, alive. The shadows froze. Out of the blizzard stepped a tall figure, his breath ragged, but his presence unshaken. Noah Ramirez, a soldier in his 40s, his camouflage uniform dusted with ice, raised his head from the hood of his jacket. His eyes were tired, but not dull. They burned with something more, resolve, defiance, and the instinct to protect. Beside him, a German shepherd canine named Duke stood rigid, hackles bristling, eyes locked on the threat. His growl rolled like distant thunder, deep and warning. With one step forward, Duke made the two men flinch. Noah said nothing at first. The snow fell between them like a curtain, but his silence was heavier than words. Slowly he lowered the strap of his rifle from his shoulder, not aiming, not threatening, simply ready. The men exchanged a look, their confidence draining under the soldier's stare and the dog's teeth. "Not worth it," one muttered. They retreated, their silhouettes swallowed by the storm. Lily's knees gave out, sinking into the snow. Her breath trembled as she looked up, half believing she had imagined him. Noah moved closer, his boots sinking deep into the frozen ground. He knelt, the fabric of his camouflage uniform creaking as he lowered himself to her height. For the first time, Lily saw his face, lined with exhaustion, hardened by years of service, yet softened by something unspoken when he looked at her. "Easy," he murmured, his voice rough but steady. "You're safe now." Duke stepped forward, sniffing gently at the girl's sleeve, before pressing his warmth against her side. Lily's hand, trembling, rested on the dog's fur. For the first time in days, she felt heat that wasn't from her own ragged breath. Noah noticed her locket, the way she traced it over and over. He didn't ask about it, not yet. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a strip of cloth, wrapping it gently around her freezing fingers. The storm howled around them, but for a moment, the alley felt still. Lily's lips parted, a whisper escaping that barely reached above the storm. "No one ever comes for me." Noah froze, the weight of her words cutting deeper than the wind. He opened his mouth to answer, but then a sound shattered the fragile calm. Bootsteps, more than two this time, heavier, closer. Duke's ears shot up, his growl returned, louder, sharper. Noah rose slowly, his hand finding the rifle again. The storm hid what was coming, but the danger was undeniable. The fire in Lily's eyes flickered with fear. The soldier and his canine stood between her and the unknown, the snow swirling around them like fate itself, drawing a line. And then, silence. Only the storm remained, but Noah knew, silence in war was often the loudest warning. The storm tried to swallow the sound, but it couldn't. Those bootsteps, More than two, heavy, sure, kept punching through the snow like a heartbeat you didn't want to hear. Noah Ramirez rose to his full height, the camouflage on his jacket a patchwork of frost and old stains. He eased Lily behind him without looking, a movement so practiced it seemed like instinct, because it was. Duke shifted with him, shouldering between the alley mouth and the girl, a living barricade with breath that smoked and eyes that burned. "Hands on my pack," Noah said, voice low, steady. "Duke's your wall, I'm your roof." Lily's small fingers found the canvas and held. He could feel the tremor through the straps. The figures came out of the white one by one, 4 men, grey coats, armbands stamped with the block letters that had rebranded cruelty as order. Not committee soldiers, not officially, but close enough to make honest people step aside and children disappear. The lead man, bull-necked, scar cutting his eyebrow into 2 wrong angles, lifted his chin. "Evening, Sergeant." Noah didn't return the courtesy. "It's morning," he said, and he didn't glance at the sky to check. The wind made time meaningless. Bullneck's mouth twitched. "We heard a child screaming. We answer screams." He let the sentence sit there until the snow covered it in sugar. Then, "She's marked." He said it like weather. Noah didn't look back, but Lily pressed closer, the locket under her sweater, a cold coin against her ribs. He felt the light tug as she worried it with her thumb. "Marks can be lies," Noah answered. "Marks are proof," Bullneck shot back. "Ownership, debt, placement. The committee has systems for a reason." Duke's growl lifted a note, more warning than threat, the sound a metal bow drawn across a low string. The 3 men behind Bullneck shifted, their boots sliding an inch. They'd heard dogs threaten before. They hadn't heard this dog promise. "We'll take her," Bullneck said. "No paperwork needed or wanted." Noah's breath came slow, controlled, each inhale measured like a step on a mined road. He had learned a lifetime ago that a voice can be braced like a door. "You aren't taking anyone?" Bullneck flicked his eyes to Duke, then lowered them like a man measuring meat. "Leash your animal." "He's not leashed," Noah said. "He's listening." Lily's whisper climbed up through the snow sieve of sound. "Please," she said, too soft for strangers and exactly right for the dog. "Please don't let me go." Duke's ears swiveled back, catching the plea. He pressed his flank into her knees until he felt her weight on him. Noah didn't have to look to know where she was. The dog was a map drawn in muscle. Bullneck's patience thinned. He jerked 2 fingers. The men fanned, one to the stack of pallets, one to the side door of the shuttered shop, one to Noah's left shoulder. Bad angle. Good luck. Noah shifted a half step, just enough to ruin their geometry. "Last chance," Bullneck said. "You need better chances," Noah said. He didn't raise the rifle. He didn't have to. He rolled his shoulders and the sling whispered. A veteran knows how little movement it takes to say "I've already decided." Bullneck spat into the snow. "Fine, have it there hard." A high, bright sound cut him off. Not a siren, a bell. Noah's head tilted. He hadn't heard that bell in months. The quick double ring from the riverway, thrown by a hand crank and a stubborn hope. The refugees used it when the ice dragged loose and threatened to take the footbridge with it, or when a patrol truck slid into the shallows, or when something worse than men came out of the woods. Bullneck swore. Whatever the bell meant, it wasn't good for his morning. He snapped his fingers toward the alley mouth. 2 minutes, he told Noah. "We'll be back. She'll be ours." "You've had enough of ours," Noah said. "Try hers for once." Bullneck laughed without humor. "You can't rewrite the world with pronouns, Sergeant." He turned. The men vanished into the white as if erased. Noah didn't let his breath out. He listened to their boots fade, the bell roll again, closer now, and the storm rearrange its own voice. The wind was swelling from the river, full of sharp, wet teeth. "We move," he said. He slung the rifle across his chest and scooped Lily up in the same motion. She gasped. Then, hooked an arm around his neck on reflex, the other still trapped in Duke's ruff. The dog pivoted and surged, breaking a path through drifts that half swallowed his legs. "Where?" Lily asked into the hollow under Noah's jaw. "Shelter," Noah answered. "Even a bad roof beats no roof in river wind." They cut across the market lanes, past stalls that were just bones under frost, past the bakery's warped door where a sign still promised today, cinnamon knots to nobody at all. Noah's eyes flicked store windows and second floors. Voices can lie, glass can't. He watched reflections the way a scout reads tracks. Twice he saw movement where there should have been none. Twice Duke angled them down a side path without a command. They reached the riverway. The bell was a block away, clanging in a rhythm that said, "Hurry," whether you spoke bells or not. The footbridge crouched over black water, white with snow, its ropes drawn tight as tendons. Half a dozen people clustered at the far end, shapes moving, arms waving, trying to wrestle a tarp over a lopsided cart. The wind kept tearing it away and slapping it into the river like a cheap flag. Noah's steps thudded on the bridge planks. They were slick, treacherous, each one a coin toss. He put his boots where Duke put his paws and trusted that old pact. In the middle of the span, the plank under his right foot cracked. He surged forward before it could drop. Lily made a small sound, more surprise than fear, and tightened her hold. Her locket slipped free, swung out on its chain, caught light that wasn't there, and for an instant Noah saw his wife's smile in polished brass. The vision gutted him and steadied him both. He landed hard on the next board and kept going. At the far bank, a woman with a shawl like an unraveling cloud reached toward Lily and then pulled her hand back as if scalded, not sure where the boundaries of custody and kindness lay. A boy of 12 wrestled rope knots with hands too red to feel. An old man sat on the cart, chest heaving, breath high and dangerous. "Inside," Noah said, already scanning the buildings hemming the river lane. There, the old customs shed, windows knocked out, but walls stone thick and a broad hearth charred from old fires. He nodded to the boy. "You got more hands?" "2?" the boy panted. "If you count me." "I count you," Noah said. He set Lily down inside the shed, put her near the hearth, and snapped his fingers once. Duke reversed, planted himself in the doorway, and showed his profile to the lane in that particular canine way that says approach if you're sure of your sins. Noah fed kindling into the hearth and dug a match from his breast pocket. It was waxed, a little miracle he had been saving for a night that felt like death. He struck it. The flare lit Lily's face as if someone had briefly turned summer on above her. He touched fire to splinters, to a knotted coil of burlap, to a prayer he didn't name. "Hold this." He handed Lily a tin to warm by the nascent flame. She cradled it like it was a chick. The boy staggered in with a crate at his hip. Noah took the weight with a palm and slid it down without a bang. "Good," he said. He meant brave. The old man wheezed through the door, the shawled woman herding him with both arms like she could push air back into him. Duke stepped aside a foot and then filled the doorway again. The bell stopped. The sudden quiet rang. Noah heard the replacement sound even before he recognized it, an engine higher pitched than the patrol's truck, snarling through gears, confident as a bully. Wheels crunched the lane, closer, then closer again. Bullneck's friends, Noah thought, or someone worse. He moved to the door and looked down the barrel of the street. Through a veil of snow, shape resolved, not the grey truck, but a tan utility vehicle with a plough welded to its nose, the kind salvage crews use to claim what storms abandon. Claim. He tasted the word like rust. The utility braked hard, skidding a little, and slewed sideways to block the lane. 2 men in oil-streaked jackets jumped down, faces wrapped in scarves, eyes bright with acquisition. One pointed at the cart the refugees had dragged in. "Ours," he shouted over the wind. "Found abandoned on the West Road. Inventory tag says committee property." "Like hell," the boy muttered, too low for them to hear and plenty loud for Noah. The men started forward. Duke's growl went from cello to thunder. He showed both rows of teeth. That slowed them, but only a step. Noah felt the rifle's weight settle into his shoulder. The plough truck's engine idled, chewing the snow into dirty froth. The men angled, not toward the cart now, but toward the open church, 2 buildings up the lane, where candles made promise out of smoke. He saw it as a map, the way raiders read a day: seize what feeds you, take what warms you, then sell the rest back to the cold. "Stay with the fire," he told Lily without turning, "no matter what you hear." "I can help," she whispered, voice thread-thin. "You are," he said. "You're staying." He stepped into the lane. The wind hit him like a thrown sheet. The men paused. Something about a soldier who chooses the middle of a road makes even desire hesitate. "No work for you here," one called, grinning, "unless you push that cart for us." "Turn the truck around," Noah said. He didn't shout. His voice walked across the space and stood there. The nearer man cocked his head. "You alone?" He tipped his chin toward the doorway. "Dog doesn't count." Duke chose that exact second to step forward and plant a forepaw in the snow like a signature. He didn't lunge. He didn't bark. He just squared himself and held the man's gaze until it wobbled. "Turn the truck," Noah repeated. The second man waved a hand, bored. "We'll be taking the girl too. Committee? Pays good for marked kids. Better than carts." The street bent around those words. Noah felt it physically, a tilt under his boots that matched the slide in his gut. He didn't look back, because looking back is how you invite fear to sit down. He slid the safety. It clicked, small and absolute. "Last warning," he said. The first man lifted his hands in a mockery of surrender. "Big hero," he drawled. "She'll still be cold by nightfall. You can't heat the whole world with one match." Noah's mouth twitched like it remembered a smile and decided against it. "I only need to heat one room." Behind him, in that room, Lily lifted the tin closer to her lips and watched the wavering flame reflected in the locket's convex shine. She breathed, and the flame steadied. The nearer man shifted his weight for the step that starts a rush. Duke moved first, 2 strides forward, snow kicking from his pads, a bark like a hammer. In the same heartbeat, Noah fired. The round bit the plough's steel nose and rang it like a bell, a hard iron peal that ricocheted up and down the river lane. The men reeled back, hands up for real this time, eyes wide. The engine choked, coughed, died. For a second, nobody moved. The storm filled the space where violence had planned to live. Then a new sound rode in, thin and cutting, the whistle of a guard from the church steps. 3 blasts, then 2, then 3 again. The pattern meant incoming. Not trucks, not men, ice. Noah turned his head and saw it, a black-lipped rush surging around the far river bend, floes knuckled together by the wind, the whole surface lurching toward the footbridge like a slow, patient animal with teeth. If the bridge went, the lane went. If the lane went, every door they'd closed against the morning would open to the river's mouth. "Inside," Noah barked to the cart crew. "Rope the cart to the hearth ring. Boy, knots you showed me now." The boy bolted. The shawled woman hauled the old man by the elbows. Duke reversed, backing into the doorway without taking his eyes off the ploughman. Noah didn't holster the rifle. He stepped backward, measuring the truck, the men, the bridge, the river, the child, and the dog. The calculus filled his chest until there was no room left for fear to sit. Lily stood, unable not to. The locket swung. She looked at Noah, at Duke, at the men, at the river. Something in her small face stopped trembling. She reached down and picked up the cracked porcelain doll from where it had slid to the hearthstone. The ribbon at its throat had loosened. She retied it with fingers that had learned too much about knots. She lifted her chin and whispered into the busy air, not to Noah and not to Duke, maybe to the locket, maybe to whatever hears children best. "Please, God, let the water stop." The wind punched through the lane, and the fire in the hearth through a taller tongue. The plough truck's hood steamed. The bell at the river started again of its own accord, or maybe not. The floes lunged for the bridge, and at that exact moment something cracked out on the ice like a whip. A dead tree swept under the pilings, jammed crosswise and held. The current bucked, the floes hit, shuddered, hung. The bridge groaned, but did not break. The men in oil-streaked jackets stared like men who've seen a coin land on its edge. Noah didn't lower the rifle. "Turn the truck," he said a third time, and now his voice had more than steel in it. It had witness. They turned it. They didn't look back. Noah let out a breath that left frost on his lip. He stepped inside the shed, boots leaving wet prints that Lily would memorize without meaning to. Duke shook snow from his coat and leaned his full, warm weight into Lily's legs until she wobbled and laughed once, astonished at the sound. On the hearthstone, the flame steadied again, then climbed. The room heated by degrees, each one of victory. Noah crouched level with Lily and touched the locket with a knuckle. "What you said," he murmured. "Say it again, not for the river this time." She looked from him to the door, to the place in the white where men vanish and return. She swallowed. Her voice was small, but it didn't shake. "Please, let them not come back." Duke's ears flicked. Out in the lane, somewhere beyond the curve of buildings, a single set of footfalls answered. Crunch, crunch, too deliberate, too alone. Danger had changed shape, not gone away. Noah rose, the oath settling back across his shoulders like a cloak. "Stay with the fire," he said. "Whatever happens, you and Duke don't move until I call your name." He stepped to the doorway. The snow had thickened, a living curtain. He could feel the presence on the other side of it, the way a hand feels heat without touching flame. The figure emerged, not bullneck, not a raider. A thin man in a grey officer's coat, collar turned up, hat rimmed with ice. In his gloved hand, a clipboard wrapped in oilcloth. In the crook of his arm, a burlap sack stamped with the committee seal. He smiled, and it was not kind. "Sergeant Ramirez," he said, as if they had an appointment. "We're here to correct an error in the records." His eyes moved past Noah's shoulder and found Lily. He tapped the clipboard. "The marked child." Duke's growl rolled up from the stone floor and shook the panes that weren't there anymore. The thin man didn't flinch. He reached into the burlap and drew out something small and metallic that glinted dull in the daylight of the storm. A brand head, still cold, for now. The sight of the metal brand turned Noah's stomach to ice. It was shaped like a simple number, the kind you'd see stamped on crates or painted on doors. Ordinary enough in design, but not in purpose. He had seen it before, on flesh, on children, on the forgotten. The officer held it like a man might hold a pen, an instrument, not a weapon. His breath curled into the storm, calm as if the blizzard were a summer breeze. "Committee records are clear," he said. "Marked children are relocated, sorted, accounted for. This one slipped through." Behind Noah, Lily's small gasp carried into the cold. She pressed the cracked porcelain doll tighter against her chest, as though it could shield her from the weight of that number. Duke, sensing her fear, pressed closer to her knees, his body a wall of fur and muscle, his growl vibrating through the floor. Noah's hands flexed around his rifle, but he didn't raise it, not yet. His training taught him timing was everything. The wrong second could turn rescue into massacre. "You're early," he said. His voice was low, not challenging, but unyielding. "The committee doesn't make rounds until week's end." The officer's lips curved. "We make exceptions." The clipboard shifted under his arm as he drew a match from his coat pocket. He held it up, deliberate, letting the soldier see exactly how close fire was to the brand. "Step aside. Don't make this harder for her than it has to be." Noah moved his body half an inch, enough to block the officer's line of sight to Lily. His boots creaked on stone. His breath made a cloud between them, thick as smoke. "She's not yours," he said. The officer tilted his head. "Is she yours?" The question struck like a blade. Behind him, Noah felt Lily's small hand tug at the hem of his uniform jacket. She didn't speak, but her silence answered. It was the kind of silence only a child who has been denied belonging too many times can give. A silence that begged but did not expect. Noah's jaw clenched. "She is mine to protect," he said. The officer's smile dropped. His eyes hardened. He struck the match. The flare hissed alive in the storm wind. A tongue of light reflected in the snow and the brand's iron edge. Lily whimpered. Duke barked once, sharp, the sound so violent it made the officer's hand twitch. The match guttered, smoke curling black before the flame died. "Enough," Noah growled. He lifted his rifle, barrel steady, finger a hair from the trigger. "You touch that brand to her, and I swear—" The officer raised his free hand in mock surrender, though his smirk returned. "Careful, Sergeant. Shoot me, and you confirm your guilt. Harboring marked children is punishable by expulsion or worse." From outside, the wind shifted. Noah heard it. More boots. Heavy, deliberate, a rhythm of order. The officer wasn't alone. Shadows moved through the white, uniforms dimly visible. A full patrol. Lily clutched Duke's fur so tight her knuckles went white. "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Please don't let them take me." Her words cut Noah deeper than any threat. He'd survived wars, lost brothers, buried his own son under a flag. But that whisper, "Don't let them take me," dragged him back through every vow he had ever broken. He couldn't break this one. Not now. Noah tightened his stance, rifle high. "Then you'll have to brand me first." The officer's smile faltered. His eyes narrowed. "Don't test me, Ramirez. You know how this ends." Snow swept between them, thick and blinding, a curtain drawn by fate. The officer's men began to emerge, rifles slung, boots pounding in rhythm. The alley filled with the sound of authority, of inevitability. And then, just as the brand lifted again, a different sound broke the storm. Church bells. Not the frantic warning clamor of danger, but a single, steady toll rolling over the frozen street. The officer's head snapped toward it. His men faltered, uncertain. The sound carried like a verdict, ancient and unyielding. Noah didn't waste the moment. "Inside!" he barked. Lily stumbled backward, Duke pushing her toward the firelit hearth. Noah stepped into the threshold, rifle raised, body filling the doorway. The officer lifted the brand, eyes locking with Noah's. His voice was cold as the snow itself. "This isn't finished." And as the patrol spread like a tide behind him, the bell tolled again, louder, closer, shaking snow from the roofs. Noah's heart pounded. He knew what the bell meant, reinforcements, not for the officer, for him. Somewhere out there, someone had chosen his side. The church bell did not stop. It tolled again and again, a rhythm carved into the storm. Each strike was a hammer to the officer's calm facade. His men shifted uneasily, boots crunched in place, rifles twitching in their hands. They had heard bells before, summons, warnings, signals that the people were no longer willing to remain silent. In a world where survival was currency, a bell meant community, and community meant resistance. Noah Ramirez stood firm in the doorway, rifle steady, the frail warmth of the hearth at his back. His camouflage uniform clung heavy with snow, his breath slow but iron-strong. Behind him, Lily Marin, the fragile 6-year-old orphan in her tattered red sweater, clutched her cracked porcelain doll, pressing herself against Duke, the loyal German shepherd canine, whose growls still vibrated like a thundercloud waiting to break. The officer sneered, but his smirk was thinner now. He lowered the brand, but didn't put it away. "The bell doesn't save you, Sergeant. It just means more witnesses when I take what's mine." Noah's eyes narrowed. "Nothing here is yours." And then the storm answered. Not with snow this time, but with people. From the shadows between ruined stalls, from broken doorways and collapsed porches, figures emerged. Bundled in rags and patched coats, villagers pressed forward, men with shovels, women clutching lanterns, children holding stones they'd never dared to throw until now. Their faces were pale with fear, but their eyes burned with the fire of desperation. The officer's patrol stiffened. 10 Against 50 was no longer certainty, it was doubt. A voice rang out over the storm. Sister Margaret, wrapped in her thick wool shawl, her grey hair dusted with snow, stepped into the lane, lantern high. "This child is under sanctuary," she declared, her voice shaking but resolute. "Lay a hand on her, and you lay a hand on us all." The officer's lip curled. "Sanctuary is dead. The committee killed it years ago." "Then we'll raise it again," Sister Margaret snapped. The bell tolled behind her words, as if agreeing. Lily peeked from behind Duke's fur, her wide brown eyes glistening with tears that froze at the corners. She had never seen strangers stand for her, never heard words that made her more than a burden. Her small hands trembled, but she whispered to the doll. They came. Someone came. Duke pressed tighter into her knees, keeping her steady. His body told her what words couldn't. "You're not alone." The officer's patience snapped. He lifted the brand high, flame from a fresh match licking close to its iron face. "Step aside or burn with her," he roared. Noah didn't flinch. He took one step forward out of the doorway, planting his boots in the snow, rifle aimed directly at the officer's chest. "You're not branding anyone today." The patrol hesitated. They had rifles too, but theirs wavered. They were trained to face unarmed villagers, not a battle-hardened soldier with a loyal canine at his side. And the bell, still tolling, was not just a sound, it was a call. More footsteps echoed in the alleys, more figures swelling the crowd. For a moment, the storm seemed to hold its breath. Then Lily's voice broke through, small but piercing. "Please stop," she cried, stepping from behind Duke. Her tears streaked down her frost-bitten cheeks. "I can't take it anymore. Don't hurt anyone because of me." The entire lane froze. Even the officer's hand faltered, the brand hovering mid-air. Noah's heart clenched. That scream, those words, were what had brought him here in the first place. They had cut through his own silence, through 5 years of exile in the snow. He looked at her now, this fragile child begging for peace, and felt something crack inside him. He lowered his rifle a fraction, just enough to make his next words tremble with more than defiance, with promise. "No one will hurt you again," he told her, "not while I'm still breathing." Duke barked once, sharp and final, sealing the vow. The officer looked from Noah to the dog, to the villagers pressing closer, and for the first time uncertainty clouded his eyes. The brand's flame sputtered, then died in the wind. He snapped his hand shut around the cold iron and snarled. "This isn't over." He jerked his head. The patrol retreated step by step, their rifles lowering as they melted into the storm. The officer lingered long enough to burn Noah with a look that promised future reckoning, then disappeared into the white with his men. The lane was silent again, save for the fading echo of the bell. Noah lowered his rifle, his muscles trembling with the release of restraint. He turned and knelt before Lily, who was shivering not just from the cold, but from the weight of everything she had just seen. He gently touched the locket she still held, guiding her fingers to close around it. "You don't have to scream anymore," he said softly. Her lips quivered, and she whispered back, "But what if they come again?" Noah glanced at Duke, whose amber eyes burned with unbroken loyalty. He looked back at the child, his voice steady as iron. "Then they'll have to face all of us." The villagers stepped closer, Sister Margaret placing a shawl over Lily's shoulders. The warmth was small, but it was something. The cracked doll slipped from Lily's hands into the snow. She reached down to grab it, but Noah stopped her gently. "Leave it," he murmured. "Some things are meant to stay buried." Lily looked up at him, uncertain. Snow fell between them, silent and endless. Then she nodded, clutching the locket instead. For the first time in years, Noah felt the faintest stir of something he thought he'd lost forever. Not just duty, not just survival, hope. The bell's echoes had barely faded when the storm closed in again, swallowing sound, swallowing certainty. The villagers drifted back toward the church in slow, reluctant knots, as though retreating would make the danger less real. Sister Margaret lingered, shawl wrapped tight, her eyes fixed on Lily, as if the child were both a burden and a blessing too great to measure. Noah Ramirez adjusted the rifle across his chest and motioned to the girl. "Stay close." His voice was clipped, all soldier again. But when Lily Marin, the frail 6-year-old with tangled brown hair and a tattered red sweater, stumbled in the drifts, he caught her by the arm before she fell. The cracked porcelain doll still lay abandoned in the snow where he had told her to leave it. She looked back once, but didn't fight him. Duke, the German Shepherd K9, trotted just ahead, ears swiveling, body cutting a path through the storm. Every so often he glanced back to check on her, his amber eyes softening whenever they met hers. The group pressed into the church. Its heavy wooden doors groaned against the wind, but they closed at last, shutting out the blizzard with a thud that felt like temporary safety. Inside, the air was thick with smoke and desperation. A barrel fire burned low in the corner, surrounded by huddled bodies. The refugees, dozens of them, lifted their eyes at the soldier, the child, and the dog. Hunger and suspicion sharpened their stares. Sister Margaret's voice carried across the pews. "They are under sanctuary. All of them. Remember that." A murmur rippled, not agreement, not refusal, just survival speaking in whispers. Noah guided Lily to the hearth, her small hands spread toward the flames, her locket glinting in the light. She leaned against Duke, burying her fingers in his thick coat. For the first time in days, color returned faintly to her cheeks. But peace was brittle here. Noah saw it in the hollow faces, in the way every set of eyes darted to the sack of rations he carried at his belt. He had half a loaf of hard bread left and a few strips of dried meat, enough to keep Lily standing, not enough to share. A gaunt man stepped forward from the shadows, his coat patched with wire and rope. His voice was low, carrying more edge than warmth. "Why her? Why risk all of us for a marked child?" Noah didn't rise. He didn't need to. His reply was measured steel. "Because leaving her would have meant killing her myself." The man's mouth curled. "Better one than all." A growl rumbled deep in Duke's throat. It silenced the murmurs faster than words could. Noah's eyes met the man's until the other looked away. Sister Margaret lifted her lantern higher. "Enough. The storm is punishment enough for us all. Division is what kills quicker than cold." The man retreated, but the unease remained, buzzing under the church rafters like trapped flies. Noah finally allowed himself to sit, the wood of the pew groaning under his weight. Lily slid closer to him without a word. Her head rested against his side, her hair smelling of snow and smoke. Duke curled in front of them, paws crossed, chest rising steady and sure. For a moment Noah thought maybe, just maybe, they'd earned a sliver of rest. But rest is a luxury in a war of survival. The heavy doors boomed again, flung wide not by wind but by fists. Snow blasted in, stinging the cheeks of everyone inside. A figure staggered through, one of the villagers who had rung the bell. Blood streaked down his temple, freezing before it fell. His voice cracked the air. "They're regrouping, patrol's not gone, they're circling." The church filled with gasps, shouts, prayers half screamed. Lily pressed against Noah, her small fingers knotting in his sleeve. Duke stood in an instant, hackles raised, growl alive again. Noah rose, every muscle tight, the rifle already in his grip. His voice cut through the panic. "Then we don't wait for them to come, we move before the noose closes." Sister Margaret's eyes flashed. "Move where?" "The customs shed by the river," Noah said. "Stone walls, one door, easier to defend." The crowd erupted again. Fear, argument, survival instinct, clawing louder than reason. Some wanted to stay, others to scatter. But Lily tugged at Noah's sleeve, her eyes brimming with tears. She whispered, only for him, "Please don't let them take me." The words carved him open. He dropped to one knee, cupping her hands in his scarred palms. His voice was low, certain. "They won't. Not while I live." Duke pressed his weight into her side, as if to seal the vow. Noah looked up at Sister Margaret. "Decide fast. The storm hides us for now, but when it clears, they'll come, and they won't be asking." The old woman searched his eyes, then nodded once. "Then lead." The fire sputtered, the wind wailed against the church windows. And outside, muffled but growing clearer, came the sound of boots crunching in rhythm. The patrol was back. The church walls shook with every strike of the wind, but the noise outside was heavier, crueler, too measured to be nature. Bootsteps, dozens of them, crunching in sync across the snow, forming a circle that would soon choke the church. Noah Ramirez adjusted his rifle strap across his chest, camouflage uniform damp from melted snow, and stood tall in the dim firelight. His voice carried not just command, but urgency. "We move, now! If we wait here, this place becomes a cage." The villagers erupted. Some protested, others begged to stay. Fear was louder than reason. Sister Margaret lifted her lantern and shouted above them, "Silence! You heard him. Sanctuary is not walls, it is people. If we die divided, the child dies too." Her eyes flicked to Lily Marin, the frail 6-year-old orphan in a tattered red sweater. Lily stood close to Duke, the loyal German Shepherd K9. Her tangled brown hair stuck to her wet cheeks, her eyes wide, heavy with tears. She pressed her fingers into Duke's fur as though his heartbeat could keep her upright. The low growl in Duke's throat was steady, warning of what lurked beyond the doors. His ears twitched, mapping enemies, before Noah even spoke. Noah crouched to Lily's level. "Listen to me," he said, voice rough but steady. "We'll run together. You'll keep one hand on Duke. He'll never leave you. Understand?" She nodded, biting her lip, the cracked porcelain locket against her chest, rising and falling, with shallow breaths. The bloodied villager at the door shook his head. "They've blocked the lane, trucks, floodlights. If we break through—" "Not if," Noah cut him off. "When? The storm's our ally. Visibility's theirs to lose." He rose, scanning the crowd. "We'll split. Families first, small groups, noise scattered, trail scattered, meet at the customs shed by the river." Arguments swelled again, but Noah silenced them with one word. "Move!" The doors groaned open. Snow blasted inside, stinging faces and cutting lungs. The bell tolled once more, then fell silent, as though giving them to fate. They spilled into the storm. Figures vanished almost immediately, swallowed by the white. Lanterns bobbed like ghostly fireflies. Noah kept Lily pressed between himself and Duke. The K9 cut forward with precise steps, guiding them down alleys and between collapsed stalls. His breath steamed in the wind, but his movements were sharp, deliberate, unerring. Lily stumbled once, her tiny boots sinking in drifts. Noah scooped her into his arms without slowing, her small body weightless against his chest. She buried her face against his shoulder, whispering through her sobs, "Please don't let me go." "You'll never be alone again," Noah said. He meant it as much for himself as for her. They rounded a corner, straight into light. Flood lamps blazed through the storm, mounted on the hood of a patrol truck. Shouts tore through the night. "There! Stop!" Noah cursed under his breath. He dropped to one knee, setting Lily down behind a stack of broken crates. "Stay low! Don't move unless Duke pushes you." Duke pressed his flank against Lily, eyes never leaving the soldiers spilling from the truck. His growl deepened, a rumble so fierce it seemed to shake the snow itself. Noah shouldered his rifle. He fired once, the crack splitting the storm. The shot shattered the truck's headlamp, plunging the lane back into chaotic shadow. Soldiers scattered, blind, swearing. "Go!" Noah shouted. He grabbed Lily's hand. Duke surged forward, ploughing a path through snow and confusion. The three of them darted into the maze of alleyways, boots pounding, heartbeats louder than the storm. Shouts faded behind them, replaced by the endless rush of the wind. Noah turned corner after corner, each one buying them seconds. His lungs burned, his legs screamed, but he didn't stop. Not with Lily's small hand clinging to his, not with Duke clearing every danger. Finally, the river's roar reached them, a black, churning sound beneath the blizzard. The customs shed loomed ahead, stone walls half collapsed but standing. Noah shoved the door open. They spilled inside. Refugees were already there, faces pale, breaths ragged, but alive. Sister Margaret, too, shawl heavy with frost, lantern shaking in her hand. "You made it," she breathed. Noah set Lily down by the hearth, where scraps of wood smoked, fighting to become flame. Duke curled around her immediately, his body wrapping hers in warmth. But before relief could settle, a new sound rose from the river. Not boots, not trucks, something heavier, sharper. The ice groaned, then cracked. Noah's eyes went wide. "The river's breaking." The refugees froze. The shed itself trembled under the sound. If the ice gave way, the flood would swallow the banks, their last refuge washed into black water. Lily clutched her locket, tears trembling in her lashes. Her lips moved in a whisper, too soft for anyone but Duke to hear. "Please, not like this." The dog's ears flicked. Noah's grip on his rifle tightened. The storm, the soldiers, the river itself. It felt like the whole world was closing in. And yet somehow, Noah knew, the fight was just beginning. The sound of the river breaking was worse than rifle fire. It came low, groaning, as if the earth itself was tearing in two. The old customs shed shuddered with every snap of ice outside. Noah Ramirez, weary soldier in his 40s, wearing his frost-bitten camouflage uniform, pressed one hand against the stone wall, feeling the vibration travel through his bones. "It's moving fast," he muttered, "faster than it should." Lily Marin, the frail 6-year-old orphan, with tangled brown hair and a tattered red sweater, huddled by the hearth. Her small hands cradled the locket she wore, her wide eyes darting from the fire to the shadows to Noah's face. She had seen too much tonight, but still, she whispered softly to Duke, the loyal German shepherd canine curled against her. "Please keep us safe." Duke's ears twitched. He nuzzled her side and then lifted his head, amber eyes fixed on the door. His growl was quiet, not for show, but for warning. The door burst open. Snow swirled in. Refugees stumbled through, breathless, dragging what they could salvage: blankets, crates, children. Behind them, Sister Margaret shoved the door closed, leaning on it as though her frail frame could keep the storm out. Her shawl was soaked with frost, her face pale but determined. "They're regrouping," she gasped. "Patrol soldiers, 2 trucks. They mean to sweep the riverbank before dawn." Panic flared in the room. Refugees pressed closer to the hearth, whispers turning to shouts. "They'll kill us!" "They'll take the children. There's nowhere left to run." Noah raised a hand. "Quiet!" His voice cracked like a whip, honed by decades of command. The chaos fell to uneasy silence. "They won't risk the river while the ice is breaking," he said. "They'll wait for it to settle. That gives us time." "Time for what?" The gaunt villager, who had doubted before, sneered. "Time to starve? Time for them to torch this shed?" Noah's eyes locked on him, cold and unflinching. "Time for us to fight smart." The man looked away first. Duke rose to his feet, pacing to the door, ears flat. Noah didn't need to see the soldiers to know they were out there. He could feel it, the same sixth sense that had kept him alive too many years. He turned to Sister Margaret. "You know these people better than I do. Can they hold their ground?" Her lantern shook slightly in her hand. "They've lived too long on their knees, but tonight, with you, maybe." Noah glanced at Lily. She sat perfectly still, her porcelain doll abandoned in the snow hours ago. The locket glimmered faintly in the firelight, as if it had its own flame. Her lips moved, whispering words she had no teacher for. Just instinct, just hope. "Don't let them find us. Please, God, not again." Her prayer cut through the storm louder than the bell. The wall of the shed trembled as another crack echoed from the river. The floor beneath them vibrated. Several refugees screamed. One man bolted for the door, but Noah caught his arm. "You run alone, you die alone," Noah said flatly. "Stay with the group." Duke barked once, sharp and commanding, as if sealing the soldier's words. The storm outside shifted again. Boots, shouts, engines idling. They were close. Too close. Noah chambered around, the sound clean and unmistakable in the crowded room. "They're here," he said. Lily gasped. Her small hand reached for him without thinking, clutching his sleeve. He covered it with his gloved hand briefly before pulling away. "Stay with Duke," he whispered. "He'll guard you with his life." Her eyes shimmered. "And you?" "I'll guard you with mine," Noah said. The door rattled under a heavy blow. Snow dust fell from the beams. A soldier's voice bellowed through the wood, "Open in the name of the committee!" Sister Margaret raised her lantern high. "We are under sanctuary!" The answer was a gunshot. The bullet tore through the door, embedding in the far wall. Screams filled the shed. Lily pressed her face into Duke's fur, sobbing silently. Noah took his position by the door, rifle ready. "When they come through, we don't scatter. We push them back together." The gaunt man laughed bitterly. "Push them back? With what? Rusty tools and broken faith?" Noah's voice cut sharper than the wind. "With the only thing they can't steal, each other." The door shuddered under another blow. The latch snapped. The wood cracked. Soldiers would be inside within seconds. Noah looked once more at Lily. She was trembling, but her chin lifted. The locket glowed faintly against her chest. She whispered again, barely audible, but Duke heard every word. "Please, don't let them win." The door exploded inward, and the fight began. The customs shed shook as the doors splintered inward. Snow blasted through the opening, carrying with it armed men in grey coats, rifles raised, eyes sharp with the cold cruelty of command. Noah Ramirez, weary soldier in his 40s, wearing his battered camouflage uniform, braced himself in front of the hearth. He squeezed the trigger. The rifle cracked, the sound swallowed by the blizzard. One soldier fell, another stumbled back. Duke, the loyal German shepherd K9, lunged with a snarl that split the air. He knocked a soldier to the ground, teeth flashing, muscle and loyalty fused into a storm of their own. His growl echoed off the stone walls, making the invaders hesitate. Behind them, Lily Marin, the frail 6-year-old orphan with tangled brown hair and a tattered red sweater, clutched her locket. Her eyes were wide, filled with terror and tears, but she did not run. She pressed her back against the stone and whispered again and again, "Please stop, please stop, please stop." The room was chaos, refugees shouting, Sister Margaret holding her lantern high like a defiance of light against the dark. Tools became weapons, fear became courage. A soldier slammed his rifle butt against Noah's shoulder, knocking him half to his knees. Pain flared, but Noah gritted his teeth, swung the stock of his own weapon, and sent the man sprawling. "Stay behind me!" he barked, not daring to look at Lily, but feeling her presence like a brand on his skin. More boots stormed in, gunfire cracked, glass shattered, the air filled with smoke and snow, firelight flickering across faces twisted by rage and desperation. Through the chaos, the officer stepped in, the same thin man with the clipboard and the brand. His calm had not cracked, even as his men faltered. He held the cold iron like a crown, his eyes locked on Lily. "There's no sanctuary," he hissed above the storm of battle. "She belongs to the committee." Noah swung his rifle toward him, but the officer was quick, ducking behind his men. The brand flashed in the light. He pushed forward step by step, as though inevitability walked with him. Duke snarled, blood streaking his fur, but resolve unbroken. He planted himself between Lily and the officer, his teeth bared. And Lily. Lily rose. She was trembling, her sweater soaked, her doll long abandoned. But her eyes lifted, and for the first time she didn't look at the officer with fear. She looked at him with defiance. "You can't have me," she said. Her voice was small, but it carried, cutting through the storm of sound. The officer sneered. "Child, you don't choose." "I do," she whispered. She pressed the locket tight to her chest. "Because he—" Her eyes flicked to Noah. "And Duke do." At her words, the fire in the hearth flared. Flames leapt higher, fed not by wood, but by something deeper. Faith, defiance, the miracle of choosing hope when all else fails. The officer faltered, his men looking at the sudden blaze with unease. Duke barked, sharp and fierce, as if declaring the girl's truth into the world. Noah pushed forward with a roar, driving the butt of his rifle into the officer's chest. The clipboard clattered, the brand dropped to the floor. Before the officer could recover, Duke lunged, teeth clamping down on his arm, forcing him to his knees. The room shifted, the villagers surged, courage ignited, tools struck rifles, fists struck fear, and one by one the patrols staggered back, retreating into the storm they thought they had mastered. The officer screamed, clutching his bleeding arm, but Noah's voice cut him off. "She's not yours. She never was." With Sister Margaret's lantern blazing and the hearth roaring, the invaders broke. They fled into the snow, their shadows swallowed by the blizzard, their boots fading like a curse undone. Silence fell, broken only by the groans of the wounded and the sobs of the living. Noah dropped his rifle, chest heaving. His eyes found Lily. She was still standing, her locket glowing faintly in the firelight, her cheeks wet with tears. He knelt, ignoring the pain screaming in his body, and opened his arms. She rushed into them, burying her face against his chest. Duke pressed in beside them, his fur wet, his eyes still sharp, but softening at last. Noah whispered into her hair, "It's over. You're safe." Her muffled voice answered, Will you be my family?" The question shattered him. He closed his eyes, holding her tighter, his hand resting on the locket she clutched. "I already am," he said. Sister Margaret stepped forward, shawl heavy with frost, her face streaked with soot and tears. She looked at the three of them, soldier, child, dog, huddled by the fire. "God still works in storms," she murmured. The refugees gathered closer, their fear now tempered with awe. For the first time in years, hope had walked among them, carried not by power or law, but by love and loyalty and a child's whispered plea. The storm still raged outside, the world was still broken, but inside the customs shed, something unbreakable had been born. Noah lifted his head, his voice was steady. "We'll build from here, together." Lily nodded against him. Duke gave a low, contented huff, curling at their feet like a guardian of the promise. The flames burned brighter, as if answering, and for the first time in 5 years, Noah smiled.